Welcome to NC Spin Perspectives, opinions from thought leaders in North Carolina. Today we're talking with Dr. Andy Taylor, who is a professor and head of the Political Science Department at North Carolina State University. I want to talk about the U.S. Senate race because clearly that is the premier election in North Carolina in November. We've got an incumbent first-term U.S. Senator Kay Hagan running against House Speaker Tom Tillis. Let me begin by asking you to evaluate how well you think Kay Hagan has done in her 6 years in office.
Well, being a freshman or first-termer in the United States Senate is not an easy place to be. The Senate still has a very, very traditional kind of culture of apprenticeship, unlike the House of Representatives. And because of the seniority and the tremendous national presence of many senators, because of still a system where there is respect for those who have long tenures, it's very difficult to put your mark on a signature piece of legislation very early on. What confounds the problem for junior senators these days is the partisanship as well. So not only is it difficult for you to put your mark on something that gains public attention early, but you are automatically labeled with a D and an R straight away, and you're essentially voting. And then we've got
Obamacare to fold in over top of that,
which of course was a D. You know, as a D, Senator Hagan voted in favor of. So it's been very difficult for her to sort of say, look at this laundry list of accomplishments I have, and look how independent I am of both, both sides are. These days, it's very difficult to do that. So she's in a position where she's effectively representing the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., and particularly, of course, its standard bearer.
Well, I was going to say, there are a lot of Democrats in North Carolina say, hey, we haven't seen her for the last 6 years. Yeah. She hasn't been visible. She hasn't been here. And there are some who are saying, she didn't learn the lessons from Jesse Helms and constituent services,
or even from the person she beat. I mean, this was a message against Senator Dole.
Yeah.
In 2008, because it's a lesson that perhaps she should have taken, given what I said previously, which is you can't affect a lot of these things. So although constituency service may be at the margin for many voters, it's at least something that you can affect and control, and therefore perhaps be attentive to. And I think there is a sense amongst some Democrats, as you said in the question, that she hadn't heeded the lessons of 2008 and actually done the kinds of things that she'd accused Senator Dole of doing, and then of course led to Senator Dole's defeating that.
Now, Tom Tillis has got a track record also as House Speaker. He is running on that track record, whether he wishes to or not. How is that going to affect him? Well, how do people view him?
Notice, though, Tom, that Tillis has much more control over the record that he's going to run on than Hagan has over hers. And I think, it's going on at the moment. The General Assembly, of course, is still in its short session. There's a few issues to be worked out, particularly on the budget. But Speaker Tillis is in a position to be able to control a record that he's going to go to the people of North Carolina with after the summer. Senator Hagan really has her record made for her.
And she didn't have a lot of input in it.
And she didn't have a lot of influence.
Now, the polls show she's got about a 5-point lead, which is kind of surprising, I suspect, coming in. But is it too early for these polls to mean anything?
I think the polls are suggesting this is going to be a close race, and I don't think you have to be a keen political observer to understand that the North Carolina U.S. Senate race is going to be very close. It is interesting, though, as you noted, that there has been this perceptible little blip up for Senator Hagan over the last few weeks. It's hard to know what that's attributable to. It may have something to do with the North Carolina General Assembly being in session and a sense of North Carolinians that they're not getting much done. There may be some independent, particularly sort of suburban, independent Republican-leaning women who are worried about some of, particularly on education. But again, as I said, Speaker Tillis is in a position to close that deal and perhaps go to the people of North Carolina and say, look, you know, this is what I delivered in the summer, and that may again bring the race back into.
One of the things that I have found very interesting is that the Libertarian candidate, somebody nobody knows, is polling 8 to 11 points.
Yeah.
Number one, why? And number two, who is he taking those votes from?
Well, it's interesting. Why is hard to know. There doesn't seem to be any kind of transformative event that would help the support of the Libertarian Party in the state. Libertarians have a place on the ballot. They have a place in sort of North Carolina state law, but have always been a party that has picked up 2-3% in statewide elections, mainly when we're talking about gubernatorial U.S. Senate elections. Sean Hart has done pretty well, but the question is, where is that coming from? It may well be just a function of people just sort of answering a hypothetical question. It would be very different if they had to actually vote tomorrow. They might say, well, I quite like Libertarian, but I'll vote strategically for, you know, Tillis or Hagan. But it may be genuine, and some of this may have to do with, for example, the support that Greg Brannon showed in the Republican primary, that there is, on the economic side, a growing faction within the Republican Party that is sort of libertarian on economic issues, that he might be enjoying their support. With regards to the second question, conventional wisdom says from Republicans, I don't think it's, you know, 100% from the Republican side, but I think disproportionately so. And I think historically, and it would be the case here, that the Republican candidate would be more worried by a strong showing of a Libertarian candidate in a race against a Democrat than would the Democrat.
All right. I realize it's a long time before November.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that are saying this is going to be a referendum on Obama, and that oftentimes these midterm elections do in fact turn into a referendum on the incumbent president. Some say it's going to be about Obamacare. Some say it's going to be about the economy. What are the issues? What is the deciding issue that you think is going to make a difference to the voter when they go to the polls in November to cast their vote in this Senate race?
I don't know if there will be a single definitive issue here, but the two narratives are, and you sort of kind of explain the Republican narrative, that Kay Hagan is supporting in lockstep with a president who is presiding over a country that is enjoying, if that's the correct word, anemic growth from a deep recession, that is drifting, that has no leadership even in the national and international sense, versus a narrative of this is a guy who represents an extreme conservative group in the General Assembly that has hijacked the state of North Carolina's politics and is running us in a direction that we've never been before. Those are the two narratives. And the question is, which is the most compelling?
Who's going to be able to tell the story the best, and who's going to have the most money to tell it on television?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any danger about them either having enough money.
$28 million already?
Yes, yeah. And, you know, just last night I was watching TV and saw 2 or 3 pro-Tillis and 2 or 3 pro-Hagan ads. It is very, very early. And a lot of that, by the way, Tom, is a function of the importance of the race to the national political parties and to control of the United States Senate. There's going to be a lot of national money in this race. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem telling their story. The question is, which story is the North Carolina voter going to believe?
Yeah. Thank you, Andy Taylor.